that they're not willing to let themselves be aware of it. It's too painful. So right there, their resistance to their sorrow is another layer of sorrow. It breaks your heart to see that people are so afraid to allow these feelings to come up, and all this layer of social intercourse is designed precisely to keep it all at bay. So that's what you're feeling. What do you do about it? You do about it exactly the same thing that you do about all these kind of feelings, whether they're apparently your own or apparently belong to the community, in this case your family, which is you do nothing about them. By doing nothing about them, I mean you know yourself at that moment as this open, allowing space, which is completely open to these feelings, that isn't suppressing them, isn't trying to avoid them, isn't afraid of them, isn't trying to avoid them through activities or substances. Totally open, no agenda with them, not going to launch into a mission with your mother-in-law or your whoever it is, because you don't have an agenda. You're not going to start trying to change these feelings, but nor are you willing to play the game of avoiding and suppressing them. So you're just totally open to them. But that also means open to the conversation. Open to the conversation, because that's also part of what's going on. You see what the conversation is designed to do. It's designed to avoid having to feel this undercurrent of sorrow, but you don't judge the conversation. They're doing their best. They're doing what they've been conditioned to do. It's their way of coping. So there's no judgment or avoidance of the conversation. There's no judgment or avoidance of the undercurrent of sorrow. You're totally open to it all, or rather, you know yourself as that one which is already totally open to all of it. And that's the position you take. You don't take a position. You find yourself as that one, and you respond as that one. So you may still engage in what appears to be this superficial conversation. You may continue talking about the weather, but your conversation is informed by the position you are taking, which is actually the absence of a position. In just the same way that we did with the experiment earlier, you carry on the conversation about the weather, or the Christmas cake, or whatever it is. But somehow you're part of the conversation. What you bring to the table will be deeply informed by the place at which you stand. Somehow, even if your words remain the same, something of where you are coming from, something of your feeling, understanding, will deliver itself, will express itself. It doesn't mean that it'll transform the situation in a few minutes. It probably won't. But you'll do the very best. When I say you now, I mean your body-mind will do the very best that it is capable of in expressing this deeper understanding in response to the current situation. It may or may not have an effect that shows immediately, but even if it doesn't show, something will be planted. Something of this silence and this openness, this lack of judgment and this absence of fear that is in you will communicate itself somehow, and it'll sow a seed. In a situation where we're with another or a group or another person, where with someone who doesn't share this understanding, we can't always be this direct, and sometimes it would be detrimental. It would be inappropriate and insensitive to be so direct. And then we have to be very sensitive and tailor this understanding to the situation, which will usually mean speaking in very dualistic terms, seeming to condone the separate self that they take themselves to be. And so you have to find a way of expressing this understanding, and the criteria should always be this: to provoke as little resistance in the other as possible.